Confidence is not something that arrives on its own, and it is not dependent on mood, energy, or external approval. It begins the moment a decision is made to trust oneself regardless of circumstances. Waiting to feel confident keeps people trapped in hesitation because feelings change constantly. Decisions, however, create direction. When confidence is chosen deliberately, actions become intentional instead of reactive. Most people believe confidence comes after success, but in reality, success follows confidence-driven action. Confidence is not proof that everything will work out. It is the willingness to move forward even when the outcome is uncertain. The decision to act without guarantees rewires the mind to focus on execution instead of fear. Every step taken reinforces belief through experience rather than imagination. Feelings often lie. They exaggerate risk, magnify doubt, and replay past failures as warnings. Confidence overrides these emotional signals by anchoring behavior and purpose rather than comfort. When someone decides to trust their ability to learn, adapt, and recover, fear loses control over decision-making. The mind stops asking, "What if I fail?" and starts asking, "What must I do next?" Confidence grows stronger when action is taken before clarity appears. Movement creates information, and information creates certainty. Each action taken confirms that progress is possible, even without perfect preparation. The decision to move first transforms confusion into feedback and hesitation into momentum. Over time, confidence becomes less about belief and more about evidence created through action. Choosing confidence also means accepting responsibility for outcomes. It removes the habit of blaming circumstances, timing, or other people. When responsibility is embraced, power returns to the individual. Confidence thrives in environments where accountability replaces excuses. This shift changes how obstacles are perceived, turning them into challenges to solve rather than threats to avoid. Confidence does not require perfection, it requires commitment. Deciding to show up fully despite flaws builds resilience. Mistakes stop being personal judgments and become part of the process. The more consistently someone acts from decision instead of emotion, the less influence self-doubt has over behavior. External validation weakens confidence when it becomes a requirement. True confidence is internal and self-generated. It comes from honoring personal standards and keeping promises made to oneself. Each time a commitment is kept, self-trust strengthens. This trust becomes the foundation for consistent performance under pressure. Confidence also sharpens focus. When decisions are made in advance, energy is not wasted on overthinking. Mental clarity increases because the question of whether to act has already been answered. This allows attention to remain on execution, improvement, and discipline. Confidence simplifies complexity by eliminating hesitation. Repeated decisions compound into identity. When someone repeatedly chooses confidence, it becomes part of who they are rather than something they try to access. Identity-driven confidence does not disappear under stress because it is rooted in habit. Over time, decisive action replaces emotional fluctuation as the primary driver of behavior. Confidence as a decision creates forward motion even on difficult days. It does not wait for motivation, comfort, or approval. It functions independently of mood and circumstances. By deciding to act with certainty regardless of internal noise, progress continues, momentum builds, and personal power expands. Action must come before proof if progress is ever going to happen. Waiting for evidence keeps people trapped in preparation mode, endlessly studying, planning, and observing while life passes by. Evidence is not the starting point, it is the result of movement. When action is delayed until certainty appears, growth is postponed indefinitely because certainty is created through experience, not observation. Most breakthroughs begin in uncertainty. The first step is rarely supported by guarantees or visible outcomes. Acting before evidence appears requires trusting the process rather than the prediction. This trust shifts focus from trying to control results to committing fully to execution. The willingness to move without confirmation separates those who advance from those who remain stuck. Evidence is produced by behavior. Skills improve only when practiced. Confidence increases only when tested. Opportunities reveal themselves only after effort is invested. Without action, nothing changes, and without change, no new information emerges. Action generates feedback, and feedback becomes the evidence that guides the next move. Fear thrives in inactivity. When nothing is happening, the mind fills the space with worst-case scenarios and imagined failure. Action interrupts this cycle by grounding attention in the present task. Even imperfect movement reduces anxiety because it replaces speculation with experience. Momentum quiets doubt more effectively than reassurance ever could. Acting early builds adaptability. Instead of waiting for the perfect plan, action exposes flaws and inefficiencies quickly. This allows adjustments to be made in real time. Those who act before evidence appears learn faster because they engage with reality instead of theory. Learning accelerates when mistakes are treated as data rather than disasters. Success often looks obvious in hindsight, but unclear in the moment. People admire results without seeing the uncertainty that preceded them. Acting before evidence appears is what creates paths others later call obvious. What seems risky initially becomes logical only after persistence transforms effort into outcome. Delaying action until evidence appears often disguises itself as being responsible or realistic. In truth, it is often fear wearing the mask of logic. Progress demands discomfort because growth happens outside familiar boundaries. Acting despite uncertainty expands capability and reveals strengths that cannot be discovered through planning alone. Identity is shaped through action taken in uncertain conditions. Each time someone acts without proof, they reinforce a self-image of courage and initiative. This identity becomes a powerful driver of future behavior. Over time, acting boldly becomes natural, while hesitation feels unnatural. Action before evidence builds self-trust. Following through despite doubt proves that reliability does not depend on external reassurance. Self-trust grows when decisions are honored regardless of outcome. This trust creates stability in unpredictable environments and strengthens resilience during challenges. Those who move first create opportunities rather than waiting for them. They learn by doing, refine by adjusting, and succeed by persisting. Acting before evidence appears transforms uncertainty into direction and effort into progress, making forward motion inevitable. No one is inherently superior to another. The difference that appears as superiority is almost always preparation. People often mistake polished results for natural talent, overlooking the hours of practice, repetition, and discipline that made those results possible. What looks effortless on the surface is usually the outcome of consistent effort applied over time. Preparation turns ordinary ability into exceptional performance. Many individuals underestimate themselves because they compare their behind-the-scenes process to someone else's finished product. This comparison creates the illusion of inferiority. In reality, the gap is rarely about intelligence or potential. It is about exposure, experience, and willingness to prepare long before recognition arrives. Preparation quietly builds capability while others are still deciding whether to begin. Preparation removes fear by replacing uncertainty with competence. When someone has practiced, studied, and rehearsed, confidence becomes grounded instead of fragile. The person who appears fearless is often simply more familiar with the process. Familiarity reduces hesitation, allowing decisive action even under pressure. Those who prepare consistently gain access to opportunities others miss. Preparation sharpens awareness, making it easier to recognize openings when they appear. While others hesitate or second-guess, the prepared individual is already positioned to act. Readiness creates speed, and speed often determines who advances. Preparation also builds resilience. When challenges arise, the prepared person does not panic because they have already confronted difficulty during practice. They understand that obstacles are part of the process, not signs of inadequacy. This perspective allows them to remain calm and adaptable when conditions change. What separates leaders from followers is rarely raw ability. It is the discipline to prepare when no one is watching. Preparation requires sacrifice, consistency, and delayed gratification. Those willing to invest effort without immediate reward eventually outperform those relying on talent alone. Preparation transforms pressure into performance. Situations that overwhelm others become manageable because the work has already been done in advance. The mind remains focused because the body and habits know what to do. This is why preparation often looks like confidence when observed from the outside. Believing that others are superior creates unnecessary limitation. It shifts focus away from growth and toward comparison. Recognizing that preparation is the real difference restores control. Anyone willing to commit to learning, practicing, and improving can close the gap over time. Prepared individuals do not wait for perfect conditions. They understand that readiness is built through imperfect repetition. Each attempt refines skill and sharpens judgment. Preparation is not about eliminating mistakes, but about reducing hesitation and increasing effectiveness. When preparation becomes a lifestyle, perceived superiority disappears. What remains is clarity, competence, and consistent execution. The difference between those who lead and those who follow is not who they are, but how prepared they chose to become. The way you see yourself quietly instructs the world on how to treat you. Self-image shapes posture, tone, decisions, and boundaries long before words are spoken. People respond not to what you say you deserve, but to what you consistently demonstrate you expect. When your internal view is strong, your external presence reflects certainty and others adjust accordingly. Self-image influences behavior in subtle but powerful ways. It determines whether you speak up or stay silent, take initiative or wait for permission, pursue opportunities or avoid them. These repeated behaviors create patterns that others recognize. Over time, the world responds to those patterns, reinforcing the identity you project through action. When self-image is small, opportunities often feel distant or unreachable. This is not because they are unavailable, but because the mind filters them out as undeserved or unrealistic. People unconsciously reject invitations, underprice their value, and tolerate less than they are capable of receiving. The world does not deny them, it simply reflects their internal limits. A strong self-image changes how challenges are interpreted. Obstacles are no longer signs of inadequacy but signals of growth. This mindset alters response rather than reaction. Instead of retreating, effort increases. Instead of self-doubt, focus sharpens. The world responds to this persistence with momentum and access. The standards you hold for yourself become the standards others follow. When you respect your time, energy, and work, others do the same. When you compromise those standards, the world follows your lead. Self-image establishes the baseline for how much you tolerate, accept, and pursue. Consistency strengthens the reflection. A confident self-image expressed sporadically creates confusion, but one expressed daily becomes undeniable. Repetition solidifies perception. Over time, people stop questioning your value because your actions have already answered for you. The mirror becomes clearer as alignment increases. Language is another reflection of self-image. The way you describe yourself internally shapes how you communicate externally. Words filled with uncertainty signal doubt, while clarity signals belief. The world listens closely to these signals, responding with either hesitation or trust. Environment also mirrors self-image. The people you surround yourself with, the spaces you occupy, and the responsibilities you accept all reflect what you believe you deserve. When self-image evolves, environments shift. Old situations fall away, and new ones appear that match the updated identity. A limited self-image seeks validation, while a grounded one sets boundaries. The difference is immediately noticeable. Those who operate from self-respect attract respect because they are not asking for it. They are demonstrating it through behavior and decisions. As self-image strengthens, resistance decreases. The world no longer feels hostile or restrictive. Instead, it appears responsive and aligned. What changes is not the world itself, but the internal lens through which it is experienced and expressed. Excellence is not a one-time achievement or a special occasion reserved for important moments. It is a daily choice reflected in small actions that are repeated consistently. The standard you hold when no one is watching determines the results you eventually experience. Excellence shows up in how tasks are approached, how time is respected, and how effort is applied regardless of external recognition. Daily excellence requires discipline over convenience. It means doing what is necessary even when motivation is absent. Comfort often tempts people to lower their standards, but excellence demands consistency instead of intensity. The willingness to perform at a high level on ordinary days separates long-term success from temporary progress. Excellence begins with preparation. Showing up ready, organized, and focused creates a foundation for quality performance. Preparation reduces errors and builds confidence. When excellence becomes the expectation, shortcuts lose their appeal because they compromise long-term outcomes. Attention to detail is a defining characteristic of excellence. Small improvements compound over time, creating noticeable difference in results. Neglecting minor elements weakens overall performance. Those committed to excellence understand that details are not optional, they are essential. Excellence also requires accountability. Holding oneself responsible for outcomes rather than blaming circumstances maintains high standards. Accountability keeps effort honest and focused. It encourages continuous evaluation and adjustment instead of complacency. Consistency transforms excellence from effort into identity. When high standards are maintained daily, they become automatic. Decisions become easier because the standard has already been set. This removes internal negotiation and preserves energy for execution. Excellence demands patience. Results may not appear immediately, but daily commitment builds momentum beneath the surface. Trusting the process requires faith in repetition and long-term vision. Excellence grows quietly before it becomes visible. Learning is part of excellence. Improvement requires openness to feedback and willingness to adapt. Excellence does not resist correction. It uses it as a tool for refinement. Growth accelerates when learning is embraced rather than avoided. Excellence influences how others respond. Consistent quality builds credibility and trust. People begin to expect reliability and professionalism. Opportunities increase because excellence reduces risk and increases confidence in performance. When excellence becomes a daily standard, performance no longer depends on mood or circumstance. High-quality effort becomes the norm. Shaping habits, outcomes, and reputation through consistent execution. Choosing yourself begins with the decision to stop waiting for permission. Many people delay their progress because they are looking for approval, validation, or reassurance from others. Choosing yourself means recognizing that no one will ever care more about your future than you do. The moment you take ownership of your direction, power shifts back into your hands. Executing relentlessly requires clarity about what matters most. When priorities are defined, distractions lose influence. Relentless execution is not chaotic effort. It is focused action repeated daily. It is the commitment to move forward even when results are slow or recognition is absent. Choosing yourself also means releasing the need to be understood. Not everyone will support your goals, and not everyone needs to. Approval is optional, but commitment is essential. Progress often requires walking alone before others recognize the value of your direction. Relentless execution demands resilience. Obstacles are inevitable. And setbacks are part of growth. Those who choose themselves do not interpret difficulty as a sign to stop. They adjust, learn, and continue. Persistence turns temporary failure into long-term momentum. Self-belief strengthens through follow-through. Each completed action reinforces trust in your ability to execute. Over time, confidence becomes rooted in evidence created by effort. Choosing yourself daily compounds into unshakable self-trust. Execution requires discipline over emotion. Feelings fluctuate, but commitments remain. Acting regardless of mood builds consistency. Relentless action is sustained by structure, habits, and clear intention rather than bursts of motivation. Choosing yourself also involves setting boundaries. Time, energy, and focus must be protected. Saying no becomes necessary to honor long-term goals. Boundaries create the space required for consistent execution. Relentless execution sharpens identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who finishes what they start. This identity influences future decisions, making consistency easier and hesitation less frequent. Momentum grows when action becomes automatic. Small daily steps accumulate into significant progress. Execution becomes less about force and more about rhythm. Choosing yourself repeatedly builds a cycle of action and reinforcement. When you choose yourself and execute relentlessly, progress becomes inevitable. Effort continues regardless of external conditions, and growth accelerates as commitment deepens through consistent, disciplined action.